So, I want to talk with you all about, as a person who was unschooled, did self-directed education for pretty much my whole childhood until I chose to go into community college at 16. Was I prepared for life? So essentially, this is a question that lots of unschoolers get. This is a question that lots of parents have because, of course, as parents, we're super concerned about our kids being ready for the world. We want them to thrive and survive and be able to, you know, take care of themselves and be happy in the world as much as they're able to. So of course we're asking this question. If you choose to opt out of the school system, are you gonna be ready, prepared, able to do all of that? Ready?
I am. Go for it.
Okay. So I'm doing a video on talking about, as like an unschooler who didn't go to school most of my life, was I prepared for life? So like ready to go out into the world and be a successful, functioning human being, essentially. But I'll get more into what prepared for life can mean in the video. But first I want to ask you and Mom how you feel about that. Do you think I was prepared for life?
Well, no, as I don't think anyone is prepared for life when they're 18 and they're going off to college. I don't know how you would be, because the only way to be prepared for things is to have experiences. So, and it doesn't work retroactively, unfortunately. What I think you were prepared for is to learn how to be prepared to learn from experience, and how to be prepared, if that's the right word, for the next thing that you decided to do. And you engaged in self-directed education pretty much your entire childhood, whether your parents liked it or not. And there's no better quote unquote preparation for life than engaging in self-directed education your entire childhood, because that's what you're going to have to do when you leave home and you go to college, or you become a plumber, or you start having relationships and all of that stuff. That it's really being able to learn from experience, to have confidence, to know that even when you don't know how to do something, you will figure it out and you'll learn to do it. So in that sense, I think you were far more, quote unquote, prepared for life than someone who spends about 6 hours in school and maybe 3 to 4 hours away from school, dealing with school, homework and projects and transportation to and from school, who's being told what to do all day long, never has to make their own decisions, and including when they get home because they have homework or they have extracurricular activities, or they go to some other organized things, and then also their parents are telling them what to do. So how those people get, quote unquote, prepared for life, I have no idea, because those people end up in shock when they actually have to make some decisions. And not all of those young people really do very well. A lot of, as you know, I was a marriage and family counselor, and I worked in mental health all my life. And that's when young men have their first mental breakdown, is when they go off to college and they realize that they have no idea how to deal with the social world. And even if they didn't well in school, they might have been the smartest kid in class. Suddenly they're not, because when you go off to college, you're usually not the smartest kid in college. Even if you were at home, you might be, but probably not. And not every kid knows how to deal with that, because if you never had experiences where you weren't, really good at something or successful socially or academically, you have to figure out how to adjust. And if you never had to do that, you're going to have trouble with that. So I would say that if you want to use the term prepared for life, I'd say no, because no one is, but far more than if you had gone to school.
So for the record, Dad didn't want to do a monologue. He wanted me to interview him, but he's really good at monologues, like father, like daughter. And yeah, no easy answers, right? When you ask, like, are you prepared for life? My immediate answer was going to be, what does that even mean? And my dad's
Right.
immediate answer was, no, no one is. So you can see where I got a lot of that. One more question, because I never want to give the impression that like unschooling is perfect and there's no pitfalls, like nothing's perfect. Were there things that like you didn't feel I was as ready for because I didn't go to school, or anything you were worried about?
Really, no. I would have wished you studied history a little more.
Yep.
And I would have wished that I thought of teaching you and your brother to write before you left.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? You both adapted in about 15 minutes to that.
True.
And, I went to school and I never learned how to write until I was in my 30s and decided I was going to write newsletters and reviews and things like that. So going to school doesn't mean that you were going to learn something in particular. You guys, again, because you had faith in your own abilities to learn, you guys both learned how to write on your own within a few months. So I'd say really no. Can't think of anything. You also had incredible judgment, both of you, when you went off to college. I never, ever worried about that you were going to get in social situations that you would feel influenced to do things, coerced, that you weren't willing to do, that you didn't want to do. I never felt that about either of you, because you both had really strong minds of your own, because you engaged in your own decisions growing up.
Yeah, and we talk about like parental fears a lot driving sending kids to school. Like parents are so afraid of what will happen if they try something new. But that's a huge parental fear, is like, what's my teen going to do when they're in these situations, or my college student or whatever, if they don't know how to handle themselves? That's a huge parental fear. I mean, obviously, I think unschooling is a lot better for kids being prepared, young people being prepared, and should ease your fears. But, there's lots of fear in anything that's different. Anything else?
No, I would just be repeating myself. And at my age, I do that enough.
I think my dad actually kind of just did a great job of answering it, so it's going to be hard to follow. But first, I want to address that sentence, prepared for life, and what does that even mean? I think when people ask it, they're asking things like, are they ready to get jobs and function in a workplace, or find a workplace that they can function in? Are they ready to do certain tasks and work that will be asked of them that they haven't had to do before? Are they ready? The one I hear a lot, it's so not my favorite, but the one I hear a lot is like, if you've never experienced being told what to do and making yourself do things you don't want to, how are you going to be able to do that? I will address that soon. And then also, like, what about relationships, socialization? Are people ready to be in relationships with people, either intimate personal ones or in communities or in college communities? Are we ready to be in these situations where we're taking care of ourselves, cooking for ourselves, cleaning for ourselves, keeping our house for ourselves, keeping our time for ourselves? Like, all these things, I guess, is what it means to be prepared for life. I tend to agree with my dad, as he said, that no one's like prepared ever in the perfect way for life. What you really want from a kid who is transitioning out of the home with their parents or their family and into a place where they're on their own, taking care of themselves without their parents and their family right there, is like paying rent. Unfortunately, that's what the world we're in, but paying rent, feeding themselves, having an environment that they care about, managing their time, managing their relationships or systems with other people they're living with, knowing how to do that. I think that's like the main things we want for people, taking care of themselves, being happy and healthy. But we want that for people their whole lives, right? Like for me, my son and then also myself as an unschooler, like our work on being able to be part of a household where we're all like living and learning and sharing space together didn't start the minute I left my home and got roommates. It starts way earlier when I'm in the home, because like we are the first roommates. The family's the first roommates. And if you have this conventional kind of lifestyle where you're giving out chores, you're telling your kids what to do, there's rewards or punishments based on them doing it, you're scheduling things for them, they actually don't have any of that practice. They don't have any of that practice or any of that experiences to know how to do these things when they suddenly enter into a situation with roommates or on their own or whatever it is, right? So I think in that way, especially unschoolers, self-directed young people are so much more ready because they've been in these family systems where they are contributors, they have a voice, they know what it's like to have to manage their own time, live and learn and communicate and be in conflict with people in their household. And it's not just this like top down, the parents decide what the solution is, tell the kids to do it, and they do it. It's like the kids are equal parts of that. So they actually have all that practice that normally you wouldn't have if, I mean, you can have that practice if you go to school. You can't have that practice if you have this way of parenting or family lifestyle where the parents like in charge and deciding on the time use and everything of kids. And then like school does the same thing, manages your problems for you in this sort of top down way. So yeah, that also counteracts it. I think you can do it at home to the best of your ability while kids are in school, but it's still not as many experiences in like doing things for yourself, having autonomy, decision making, time over your own body and choices and all of that, right? So school interrupts your ability to practice those things because it doesn't allow practice for those things.
Hi, Raiden.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Bria.
Was I prepared for life when I turned 18 and went off into the world? In my situation, that was college. In other people's situation, it won't always be college. So don't just think about the transition to college, but even the transition to like things that happen in life when you're not living under your parents' roof anymore. So do you think that I was prepared for life when I left home at 18?
Yes, I do. I'm not sure why I do. I guess because you were very social, and I knew that, and you taught children, I've been teaching for a long time. So you knew what learning was about, and you were familiar with interacting with people. I guess that was, my main concern would have been, how would you get along in your dorm environment and in your classes and all of that. And I didn't have any worries about that. I knew that socially you were going to get along just fine. And that's a big worry with college, I think, being able to negotiate that. And as far as, I knew you were smart. I knew there was going to be no problem with you doing well.
So if I was less social, would you have been worried about it? Like, do you think a person has to be naturally social to be ready for that transition?
I would have been, I think, a little more worried. Yeah, for sure. It's such a dramatic thing to do, go off away from your family, that, yeah, I think I would have been more worried. And it helped that you were closer too, than Adam was. Adam was so far away. I felt like I had no ability to help him. So in any way,
Do you think any of that has to do with us not going to school? Like, do you think it would have been better if Adam had gone to school and had a chance to be social there?
No, because I don't ever regret not sending you to school, if that's what you mean. I think we made a decision early on, before you guys were even born, that's what we were going to do. I think. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, I think Dad decided when he was 17 years old and told you that was his hope. Luckily, you were on board, but
well, we both had such different experiences with education, but not necessarily ones that we felt that we learned a lot. So we actually believed that we could do a better job of preparing you than the school system could.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for very different reasons, obviously, but
yeah, I guess my question was, do you think any part of concern about a kid not being ready to go, or like Adam not being ready? I think Adam was ready. What do I know? But like any of those concerns, do you think they have anything to do with us not going to school, or if they're just a product of like different people's personalities and ways of being in the world?
Okay, so you've heard this story before, but when we went to the introductory, whatever it was at Western Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and you could literally not sit still. And when we were in, it was, what's that called? When you go, you do
Study abroad.
Yes, thank you. Study abroad. And you could not sit still. And I really had some concerns about whether or not you would have been, you were going to be able to sit through a class, with a big class with people, because of that level of energy that you had just sitting beside me at the time. I wondered. And that was also another reason why I really felt good about not sending you to school, because I don't think you would have liked it at all. I don't think it would. And for very different reasons, Adam, but for you, just your energy level, you would have not been teacher's pet, I never was either, but you would have had a difficult time in a setting where you had to sit all day long. So that was only one concern. But really nothing about that made me feel as if I regretted not sending you to school ever.
Yeah.
So.
I don't remember this situation at all. As far as I'm concerned, I do just fine sitting down, and my movement is normal and what I should be doing. And for those of you who have seen me in Zoom meetings, sometimes I'm doing this in meetings, or like sitting different ways. But I guess I don't notice, is what I'm saying. My mom is probably very right, and I just didn't even notice I was doing it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, you were putting hair up and putting it down, and I mean, you were just all over the place. And I'm sitting there thinking, how is she going to sit through a class? I really wondered.
I won't tell you how I sat through classes publicly, but not always successfully. Well, I think it was successful, but not what they would call successful. I was just thinking, you were saying those worries came up, and I'm just wondering if during the process of us growing up, not going to school, if you ever felt really worried, and like how you got through, like about different things that maybe we weren't getting or weren't doing, and how you got through those fears as a parent.
I don't know. I'm always this is who I've been all my life, is being in the present moment. So I don't think about the future that much. So it was more related to what was going on in my life and your lives at the time. And if that was in sync and doing well, I wasn't worried about the future as to what you might be missing. And your dad was taking care of the sort of daily oversight while I was working. So that, that made a difference too. I really trusted your father to be able to route the right things to you. And as it turned out, as you know, I mean, he routed some things to you that you weren't interested in. But
That's not what
that
I thought
you
you
know
were going to say.
you found your own way, and that you always had that kind of strength of character to do what you were interested in. So the things that you were exploring, and martial arts and dance and all of that together seemed to be the right things for you. And I didn't have any doubt that you were smart enough to be able to handle it. So yeah, I mean, and I don't think I ever really had any worries about it, in terms of what you weren't getting. I let your dad worry about that.
Dad
And he
likes
did.
to worry.
Yeah.
But dad's also like exudes confidence about his choices. So I hear this all the time about unschooled kids sometimes feeling worried about their choices, or like people are judging them. They don't know how to handle it. I never felt any of that. And I think dad put such a protective barrier, not like he was putting us in a bubble from the world, but a protective barrier over our right to choose. And this is what we were doing. And it was good for us. Like, it seemed like our family was so confident in that thing that I didn't worry that what I was doing would harm me, or that I should be more like everyone else, or any of that. Like, I was very confident because you and dad like exuded that confidence in what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't worried about you guys. I mean, the main thing was having enough money to give you the opportunities. And honestly, that's a hard one I would think that would be very difficult for many homeschooling parents to be comfortable with being able to provide those opportunities and get the support you needed and still be able to make a living and support your family. So that's more what I was worried about than whether or not you were getting what you needed to, because I knew you had the capability innately to be able to determine your own life. And even though I didn't think of it in that way at the time, I had confidence in both you and Adam that you were going to do just fine. The worries were more about, how to deal with the financial issues, which I do think is, a really important and a problem for many, many people, and why they send their kids to school.
Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, for sure. I think I would love to do this for Adam as well, because I think your answers are going to be very different. For people who don't know, my brother and I are extremely different and love each other a lot. But yeah, so I think you keep saying that I had these personality traits that made me really set up, and Adam didn't have the same personality traits, but he did well also in his own way. And it sounds like you felt confident about him. So I'd be curious to hear what your answers are about him with his completely different set of personality traits and how he did things. All that considered, we'll see if we can get Adam in front of the camera to say things about himself. Yeah, I think the contrast between us is just very stark, and that's important. See, I'm already spinning on my chair.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Usually I'd be dancing at this point in the video by now.
I noticed.
What else? Getting a job. I think you'll see this play out in a variety of different ways. I strongly believe that if you really, really want to make money or have that job, and that involves some boss telling you to do things that you don't really want to do, even if you've never had that experience before, if you want to do it, you will figure out how to do things, make deadlines, manage your own time, which we have been doing our whole lives, right? Most of our lives. You'll figure out how to make it work. It's not going to be fun for anyone, period, but you don't need to have that frustrating experience forced on you in childhood to be able to manage it when you choose it in adulthood. So I think that's ridiculous, that framing. And I think a lot of people in self-directed education, unschooling, are actually, a lot of the time, not everyone, but like looking for spaces where they can not just survive and like suffer through a job to get money, but actually thrive, or at least enjoy their job enough. That's not universal. Some people are still just happy to get a job, go through it, not really like it very much, and then have all their hobbies. Like some grown unschoolers are perfectly happy doing that. Again, that's their informed choice. Like they've made that choice knowing themselves. Whereas I think a lot of people who go through these school systems are making this choice without knowing themselves and without really considering other options, because it's harder to think outside of the box when you haven't had that chance or that opportunity to really get in tune with what you really want for yourself and think about different ways you could live in society. Being out of school is already showing you this whole different way you can live in society. So you already have that, I think, lens in a lot of ways that there are different ways to do things. So I do think a lot of unschoolers, SDE people tend to find outside of the box jobs, their own businesses, entrepreneurs, just like elements here. Just like things that maybe they really, really care about and enjoy working in. I think that's a more common experience for a lot of people, and just finding new ways of living and experiencing life. But in terms of just basic survival, making money, paying for the things you need to survive, I had no issue with that transition. I was really excited to be on my own doing some of these things. My brother didn't have issues with that transition. I haven't heard of that being like a big concern for unschoolers or something they have issues with. And the idea that you're gonna go out as like an 18-year-old or whatever age it is and have all the tools and everything you need to be prepared for life is like, I think that's one of the biggest lies of childhood. I think it's a big lie to think that any adult is like super prepared for life. Like, yeah, we're all figuring it out all the time with new relationships, new jobs, new struggles. Like, as my dad said, it's about experiences. And there's, even when you're 80 years old and you've had so many different experiences, there's still things we're figuring out. So I just don't think there's any bam, now you're prepared for life, congratulations, you're ready. It's more like that system of being confident in yourself, knowing how to find the things you need, how to ask for the things you need, how to take care of your own needs and be aware of other people's and be in those relationships. Like, that's what we need as people in the world. And that if you have this like partnership parenting and SDE kind of lifestyle, that starts early. Like, those things start so early. So yeah, we're prepared because we have all this practice. We're as prepared as we're gonna be. So thanks for watching. I'm wearing a new outfit because things happened yesterday and I wasn't able to film the outro yesterday. Real life, it happens, things happen. But I'm so glad you're here. Drop your comments, your questions, and your feedback, or any topics you want me to do next in the comment box below, and I'll see you soon. Bye.